All right, so in this video, I want to talk about two matches that I thought were incredible during the round 2 of the US Open Cup. And hopefully, I'll be able to convince you on why you should be watching the Open Cup. But before we do, if you're a fan of the USL, please give this video a like because it really helps with the algorithm so that we can get more USL exposure out there. But with that, why don't we get into it? And the first match that I want to talk about is El Farolito versus Monterey Bay. Now, for those of you who don't know, El Farolito is an amateur side club, semi-professional. And they went up against a USL Championship Division 2, which is playing pretty well in the USL Championship regular season, Monterey Bay, and they beat them 2-1. They were losing 1-0 in the first half, but then they came back in the second half and they beat them. And El Farolito, aka the Burrito Boys, they have this reputation of doing this in the Open Cup. It is no surprise. Well, it is kind of a surprise, but it's no secret that they have done this before. Last year, they did the same thing. And it's these types of things that make the Open Cup exciting. It's these types of things that make you want to tune in. Because they did it last year, you know, people were talking about El Farolito. I was in the chat and people were saying like it was gonna be a cup set. They were gonna do the same thing. They were gonna take down a Division 2 soccer team. And I think the parlay where people betting, they were saying like, it was like plus 1,800 if El Farolito won. But people were saying like that was just easy money because, like I said, they've done this before. And so great stuff to them. There's no taking away the success that they did during this game. But you have to think about Monterey Bay. Like, what are you doing? Monterey Bay, you just lost to an amateur team. You're supposed to be in the professional. You're supposed to be the big guys. You're supposed to win. I mean, even Las Vegas had you guys winning. So I can't imagine what it's like in that locker room to go out after the game, to know that you lost this game. And the thing is, Monterey Bay isn't playing that bad in the regular season. So it kind of makes you think like, okay, do they take these games seriously? But also it doesn't really matter because anybody who was on that team, anybody who was signed with the Monterey Bay is a professional. So you're supposed to automatically be better in theory. So yeah, they lost 2-1. And El Farolito has a cool history that I won't really get into in this video, but they're tied to this Mexican restaurant, which is how they got the nickname Burrito Boys. But still, for them to win 2-1 against a professional team, I think secretly we all kind of want something like that to happen. We want these stories. We want these stories of teams that are not supposed to win to go out there and showcase and prove that they belong in these tournaments, that these players, even if you're an amateur, you deserve to compete in the Open Cup. And although MLS try to diminish this cup, and it's because of this that so many people tune in to the Open Cup. Another game that happened was the Chattanooga Derby, which was Chattanooga Red Wolves versus Chattanooga FC. And man, this game did not disappoint. This game had it all. Incredible amount of fans. More than 12,000 people showed up to this game. It was a derby. It was the first time that these two clubs met against each other. There was intensity. There was cards. There was brawls. And this is an ideal dream scenario for these two clubs because it had it all. It had everything. It's 1-1 in 90 minutes of soccer. 1-1 hard-fought battle. Goes into extra time, there is no winner. So we go to penalties. And in penalties, there is controversy. There is a questionable call because a goalie came off of his line, which even the announcer was like, that it shouldn't have been a retake. But at the end, it doesn't matter because the Red Wolves still bury it. They advance 5-4 on penalties. And then afterwards, you get bragging rights. And a player tries to go and plant the flag at the center of the circle. And so you have both teams go to the center of the flag, to the center of the circle to try to stop him from planting that flag. And I thought there was going to be a huge brawl. I thought there was going to be like, you're going to need security, state police to come in there and try to stop them. But thankfully, it didn't get that far. But still, when he goes out there and tries to plant the flag, you know what you are doing. You're instigating. You're just instigating. You're trying to get a reaction. And so it definitely happened. But still, another competitive field that this game had was MLS Next Pro versus USL League One. And that was bragging rights. These two teams are both Division 3. But lately, there has been a lot of tension between the MLS and USL. I mean, MLS is doing a lot of things, a lot of questionable things. They're kind of distancing themselves from the USL and trying to do their own thing their way, right? And the USL is just it's doing the total opposite. I mean, USL is implementing Pro Rel. MLS is definitely just franchise, and that's all it's going to be right now for the foreseeable future. But they left the Open Cup. They were not taking the Open Cup serious anymore. They did the Champions Cup, or where they try to compete with Liga MX. And so there definitely feels like a tension. USL is implementing a new Division 1 league. So it's going to rival, whether inadvertently or advertently, it's going to rival the MLS. So there is that aspect too. And it was MLS Next Pro versus USL, and USL ends up winning this game. And there's also a history between Chattanooga Red Wolves and Chattanooga FC, which I didn't know this, but Chattanooga FC is a team that that has existed for a far longer time than the Red Wolves. I had no idea about this, but yeah, there's a history there. And so a lot of people say like the Red Wolves, they just were bought in. They bought their fans. They bought their way into the soccer landscape. It almost feels like Man City versus Manchester United in the sense of Man City, when they got that upgrade, that huge money investment, then they became this big thing that people love and that people flock to and started rooting for, when Manchester United has been there for a very long time. That's kind of the vibe that I got from this background. But yeah, overall, this game was intense and it had everything. This game looked very special, and I'm sure people are still talking about that game, especially if you lived in Chattanooga, because it's a Wednesday, and I don't think a lot of people go out on a Wednesday to a soccer game. And like I said, there was more than 12,000 fans. The fourth largest attendance happened, and it was an Open Cup match. Now, those two games are the biggest games that happened in round two that I feel like, even though I know, like, for example, Portland Hearts of Pine, they beat a USL championship team, Hartford Athletic. That is a lower league team beating a higher league team. But let's be real, it's Hartford Athletic, and Hartford Athletic is not playing well at all right now. Hartford Athletic is not doing a good job during the regular season. So USL League One, yes, they beat them. They beat a championship side team, but does it really count? I mean, and they were losing. Hearts of Pine, I believe, were losing. They were losing. They tie up the game and they go to penalties and they win 4-2 on that one. But yeah, it's a victory and you take it and you are now moving on to the next round. So that happened. And then also for really quickly, the Union Omaha Des Moines Menace game. Union Omaha beats the Des Moines Menace, and Des Moines Menace, that was weird because there's a bunch of old guys coming out of retirement to go and play soccer, and you're kind of taking away from the younger guys who could have potentially made a name for themselves during this tournament to go out there. Yeah, so that whole thing was kind of a weird thing, because in one aspect, yeah, it's cool to see like guys that maybe you saw growing up. Some of them were faces of the MLS for a little bit, like Bradley White Phillips, Sasha Kleston was for a little bit, Benny Feilhaber. So yeah, it's cool to see them, but at the same time, I mean, you're retired already, and it's like, okay, you know. So yeah, thankfully they're out. Union Omaha, they advance. But yeah, the Open Cup, I feel like, guys, more people should be tuning into this competition, because let's say I describe those games without mentioning the clubs. People would still be passionate about it. People would still say, hey, man, that's a really cool game. Like, I wish I would have seen that. More people should be turning into the Open Cup, because you have passionate people. You have intense games. You have things. You have derbies. It's not just European soccer that has these things. It's not just Champions League. It's not just Copa del Rey or the German Cup or the FA Cup. No, this happens here in the U.S. It happens all over the world, but specifically talking about in the U.S., you have passionate fans. You have people that go out there and care. They root for their local club. They want them to advance, and so people should tune into this. People should really look at the Open Cup and say, okay, what kind of stories are going to happen here? What rivalries are going to start? What's going to happen? Like, will this team advance? Will a lower league team win the competition? That's why I really wish that the MLS and USL Championship also started in round one, because you would have, in theory, more lower league teams knock out some big clubs. And so how cool would that be? How cool if one of the top teams in MLS or in the USL Championship lost to an amateur side, like we just witnessed with El Farolito. So you don't have to look overseas to find great games. You don't have to look overseas to find rivalries, to find great stories. And in the Open Cup, it's the third longest running tournament in the world, and it's happening here in the United States. So I really wish that more people tuned into it, but hopefully this helps. Hopefully this gets people inspired to see. Round 3 was just drawn today while I make this video. So round 3 is about to happen. And what other stories, what other teams are going to win, what other teams are going to advance and not advance, time will tell. And that's the beauty of the Open Cup. That's the beauty of these style tournaments. But yeah, I would love to hear what you guys have to say. Let me know in the comments. Did your team win? Did your team lose? Are you a fan of the Open Cup? Are you not? Let me know what you guys have to say. But with that, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you all on the next one.